What I love about pork is how broad and opaque its fat base is. And that fat base is an incredible space to hold aromatic weight, so to hold spice, particularly if the spice is hot and acidic. And so that's what I'm going to do with these pork ribs. I'm going to start with some fresh aromatics. This dish is getting a lot of sauces. So a lot of the flavour and the texture is going to come from the use of liquid aroma, so sesame oil, olive oil, soy sauce, bit of fish sauce, some honey in there, and then the dried and ground spices are going to create a little bit of a deeper texture base, and then the fresh spice is going to liven it all up, so give it all the zing. These dishes are great because they're actually really time effective and really punchy for flavour. So quite often you have to spend time to make something taste really great, but when you've got this much fat and this much kind of fleshy tendon and bone in your meat, that accelerates the flavour process. I'm just going to get a pot and put literally everything into the one pot. So pork ribs, there's 4 of them all joined up into the pot. I'm going to put my wet aromatics in there as well. So 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Two teaspoons of sesame oil. A teaspoon of mirin, so a little bit of acidity in there. Soy sauce for umami, 2 teaspoons. Honey for sweetness, so there is a teaspoon and a half in there. And then fish sauce, because fish sauce makes everything better. Fish sauce is an elusive savoury quality, but just a couple of drops. Oh, you know what, a teaspoon. And now the spice. So the spicing I'm going to use in here is predominantly hot and acidic, with a little bit of earth spice in there just to ground all the flavour down. Earth spice are things like cumin seed, fennel seed, and they have the capacity to build weight across the mid-palate, which is what you need when you're playing with a lot of chilli, because chilli lifts the dish and lightens it. So 2/3 of a teaspoon of Kashmiri chilli. I'm going to put a little bit of hot chilli in here, a half a teaspoon, and some cayenne pepper, so 1/3 of a teaspoon. Now the interesting thing about using chilli is actually the more chilies you use, the less intense the heat base for the dish. This is because I always say it's equivalent to, if you stand flat-footed on a hot surface, the bottom of your feet will burn. But if you're skipping across hot rock, you can actually move quite easily without any repercussions. So chili works the same way. If there's a lot of a singular chili, your mouth will sit on that heat and it will feel every single ounce of all of that flame. But if you have different chilies in the dish, each different chili, depending on like its texture, depending on whether it's dried or fresh or flaked, what type of chili it is, will hit the palate in a slightly different spot. And so what your mouth is going to do in order to identify that flavour is to move between chilies from one to the other. And in that way, you're allowing your mouth to do that skipping on hot rocks as opposed to standing flat-footed on hot asphalt. So I often use chili in that way because I don't like a lot of really intense heat, but I do love the floral aromatic quality that chili provides, and the height. When there's a lot of fat in the dish, as there is with this pork rib, height goes a long way to making it feel, I guess, less weighted and less fatty in the mouth. Instead, you get all of this beautiful texture and lightness and complexity. And so the earth spice we're going to use is cumin seed, because it's my favourite. So 3 teaspoons of this. And you can see how fusion it is. Like, it's not Chinese, it's not Malaysian, it's not Indian, but it will be delicious. And to me, you know, that's the main thing. And then half a teaspoon of ground cumin, just to push that other whole cumin seed forward. Oh, almost feel like that's all I want to do to it. I'm just going to massage it through a little bit. Now, as I'm doing that, I realized I forgot salt. What a duffer. So I'm going to use 2 types of salt, because why use one when you can use 2? So I'm going to use a fine white sea salt, 2 teaspoons, because, or 1.5 teaspoons, because pork does take quite a lot of flavour penetration and salt will help that. It's a really thick meat. It's very heavy and dense and neutral and sweet. And then 1/3 teaspoon of Indian black salt, Kala Namak, which has this really beautiful sulfuric quality. So low sodium, it doesn't taste very salty. It's almost like swallowing a mouthful of seawater or munching on a boiled egg, or it has this intense sulfur. The beautiful thing about that sulfuric salt is that it works in with the chili to add a different dimension to the heat and the flame of the chili. You also get this beautiful smoke and complex afterburn aroma. Now I'm going to pop that in the oven, and that's it. It's really sweet from the honey and the soy sauce and the sesame oil, and the spice is just warming and delicious, and that I could just pull that apart with a fork. It's totally slow cooked. So that was 4 hours or 5 hours at 160 degrees in a lid on crock pot in the oven, and that's just perfection.